Men, the war is upon us. Our homes burn, our families scatter. Their blood stains the land, but it will be our blades that turn the tide. Charge!
What's up guys, my name is Crash, and today we're going to be talking about Ghost of Yotei. This is a follow-up to the prior game, Ghost of Tsushima, and it is honestly pretty amazing from what I played. I've finally gotten through everything in the game. I even 100%ed everything that is to be played and even platinumed it. The game is very exciting and really enjoyable to play through, and let me give you some of the reasons why. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the story. The story is just another revenge story, but it is actually done in a good way. Surprisingly, even though revenge stories are kind of cliche and uninteresting, this one still had enough charm to it to pull me in and make me play through the whole thing. Don't get me wrong, a lot of it is just cliches and something that is very predictable, but it's not in a bad light. It's actually still pretty entertaining to go through, and the way they did it makes it a little bit more exciting. So some of the interesting things that really pulled me in is that you get to go into the past and see how the story actually played out. Sadly, you have to wait until later on when you actually play through the game, because not all of the story is told to you right off the bat. It's kind of a question right off the beginning where you don't really understand what's actually going on, and it kind of drags you in to make you more interested into the story this way, because then you want to see what actually happened and what happens next. So it makes it a little bit more exciting doing it this way, but it can be a little iffy for people that like to know the story right off the bat. The interesting part of this is the Yotei 6 group and how they pretty much all ended up banding together to pretty much attack you and what their loyalties lie and stuff. It makes it really interesting for the plot. The plot also has a decent cast, but sadly I feel like they didn't really build into them as much as they did in Ghost of Tsushima. A lot of the cast in Ghost of Tsushima, I had a lot of enjoyment actually learning who they are. Like all of the Sakai clan and all the people around him were a lot more interesting, at least in my opinion. But when you actually get through this game, it still isn't that bad. Some of the characters are still interesting to learn more about, but it's just not on the same level as it was for Tsushima, at least in my opinion. I still found a lot of enjoyment trying to find out who is a good guy and who is not, but it was a little bit more of a understanding of who was actually supposed to be the bad guy in this game. And the other thing that is kind of disappointing, just because it is a revenge plot, I don't think is as interesting as Tsushima, where it's more of an honorable thing where you're trying to learn is honors as important as keeping all the people around you alive, which made it a lot more interesting, at least in that game. And sadly, this game doesn't really hold a candle to that type of plot. Even though it still is good, it's just not on par, at least in my opinion. But all that aside, the Yotei 6 clan is really cool, and I really had a lot of fun trying to find out who they actually were and play through and learn why they are the way they are. It makes it a lot more interesting for pretty much any long playthrough through the game. Same with why these people are against them and pretty much where their loyalties lie. The only thing I don't really like though is I don't like clear bad guys, clear good guys in games, and this kind of game kind of fits with that. The Matsumai clan is technically the good guys. They don't really do anything bad aside from move into the north where they originally weren't from, and the settlers did complain about that, but I wish it would have built more onto it than just being well, the settlers don't really want us here, but we are the good guys overall, which kind of sucks. I like how they did it with Tsushima, where even the samurai felt kind of iffy and didn't really care about civilians and all that dying, because they were more about honor than actually keeping themselves alive pretty much, which made it a lot more interesting. And with the enemy, it's the same thing. You know that they're the almighty bad. None of them have any redeeming qualities except a certain few, which I will not go into because it would ruin the plot. But yeah, like I said, the plot overall is okay. But how about the missions that you actually get to play through? The missions in the main story feel amazing. A lot of them are really cool and interesting, and they kind of feel like Toshima, where some of them are just like massive battles where you get to fight against these huge armies and stuff. I was kind of worried when this game came out if they were going to be on par in any way, shape, or form, just because the Mongolian invasion was a lot more of like an exciting event where it had armies pushing through. I didn't know if this one would even light a candle to that, but it did. It still felt interesting to play through this and fight through these like major battles that they actually had, and even when they had like light stuff where you kind of try to go around and investigate, it's just as fun as they did it in the original game. The only thing that is pretty much gone from this game is like the tracking quests and stuff like that, and personally I'm completely fine with that because I think the tracking quests were kind of a pain in the ass, mostly if you're trying to play and have a decent amount of time. Having to worry about having to like look at footprints and stuff like that wasn't all too fun to do in Toshima, and it's kind of completely gone in this game. Don't get me wrong, there is certain quests that do that, but it's just not as much as it used to be. The other type of main missions that you actually get to play all still feel around the same as they did in Toshima, just a different plot to them. It's still interesting to get to learn all these new characters from doing these, and actually gaining the different weapons from doing these main quests as well feels really exciting. But aside from that, the main missions are really fun. It's really exciting to go around trying to find the Yotei 6 and wipe them out and pretty much mark the names off the list that you have. But how about the side quests? The side quests in this game are kind of just like they were in Toshima, and a lot of them are just rehashes. So like going up the shrines and stuff is kind of around the same. Cutting down bamboo is the same thing. Doing hot springs for pretty much reflection of your life are all around the same thing. The only things that are kind of different are I know things that you collect are pretty much history of this one clan. And it's okay. I'm not all too interested in it. I didn't really have too much fun with doing that. But aside from that, you have some other unique ones like these puzzle boxes that you get to open, which are kind of entertaining to do. But the rest of them are pretty much the same thing, aside from the gambling den where you actually get to go around flicking coins to actually gain money. So at least there's something for you to do so you can gain a decent amount of money. But there is also some really major ones that I found really entertaining, which are just a random quest that you find while you're playing through the game. You can just help these certain villages or certain groups that are trying to do a set goal. And a lot of them are at least better than what they were in Toshima. And same with like the bounty quests. These ones are the major ones that I had a lot of fun with. These are the ones that you get to kind of go around just finding these other bounties to just wipe out. And they're not just generic little bounties where you just go up to them, kill them, and then go back. No, they all have a different story to them, and all of them are pretty interesting. There is only around 30 of them, and they're all really enjoyable to go through, and it kind of adds a little bit more to the plot and gives a little bit more interest to it. Not only that, you are also one of the bounties that people are looking for, so it kind of plays into the side missions as well, because people are going around trying to kill you as much as you're trying to go and get them. It's actually kind of cool. I really enjoy that feature. But aside from that, all the side quests do feel pretty good. If you're into collecting, there is a lot of collectibles in this game as well. I am personally not really into it, but I still do it just because I'm a completionist, so sadly I am stuck in that criteria of what you need to do. But aside from that, it is still pretty fun, just like the original. But how's the gameplay feel in this game? Honestly, it feels amazing. It is 10 times better than Tsushima, at least in my opinion. There's such a huge weapon variety in this one, and they make it kind of unique by having these like quests that you have to do to actually train to learn how to use the weapon. My favorite one is the Yari, that is the spear. It is really entertaining just running around doing that. My second one is the dual katanas. It feels pretty badass running around beating the shit out of people with 2 different katanas. The Kurishigama is okay. It is just pretty much a chain with like a sickle on the other end. It is okay, like I said, it's not the best of weapons, but it's really cool to have all of these like different varieties of weapons. The only other one that they have is the Odachi, and then the rest are like throwable weapons or like bows or guns. and all of them feel like they have some type of place. Don't get me wrong, a lot of them I kind of forget that I even have just because there's so many weapons that you get to carry and use all at once. It kind of can get overwhelming in a way once you're playing through. Like, I completely forgot that I had a rifle and a bow for the longest time just because I was using throwables and kunais and stuff like that. So it can kind of just get put onto the back burner where you kind of just don't even realize that you even have some of these weapons at this point in time, which really sucks, but it is really exciting to have all this stuff there for you to actually play through with. But like I said, the gameplay feels amazing. It is the same thing with like the rock, paper, scissors thing that they had in the original, where you get to switch between weapons to try to counteract the other enemies' weapons as well, and it feels just as good as it did in that one. The only thing that I feel like the issue is, though, is not as much on the weapons, is that they don't feel as fleshed out as they did in Tsushima, just because the katana was able to be like the highlight weapon where you got to build all your character around that one singular weapon, and it felt really good. Well, this one, you have to try to play into mind that you have all 4 of these weapons, well, 5, I always forget about the Odachi. But you just have to try to play around and switch between all these weapons, which can be kind of a pain in the ass just because there's so many of them, but it is really entertaining once you actually get it down. The only other aspects to the gameplay that is around the same is like the climbing and the stealth. It all feels around the same thing, and even using your rage feels kind of samey as it did in the past games, which isn't a bad thing. It feels all pretty good, and it felt good even back then. It just feels a little bit more refined than what it actually was in the prior stuff, which is a good thing. At least everything feels a little bit more fleshed out. Aside from that type of stuff, there is a new character that is your companion that you get to use, and that's the wolf. The wolf is okay. It's interesting to have this on the side, but it really doesn't do all too much. At least to me, it felt like just a throw-in thing that they had in the game. And pretty much all you would really do with this wolf is go into certain combat scenarios with them, and he's just a random spawn, which is kind of disappointing. So you're not always going to be able to fight with him. I wish you kind of could just call him in whenever you wanted, but you cannot. So you just have to hope that he kind of shows up. He can not only just save you from combat when you get down, but he also just helps you during the battle scenes. Like if you're doing a standoff, he supports you on those as well, which is really awesome, at least in my opinion. The only other things that they really have for like gameplay and stuff are like the duels. The duels feel really good, and they feel just like they did in the original, just with a whole bunch of different weapons. So it's really entertaining going through all these duels and fighting these like different battles with these random enemies and stuff, just like you did. There is like this one group that you have to find and duel all of them to get this like special stance that you get to do in combat, which is really entertaining to go through, and I highly recommend doing. The only other ones that they have that are kind of like this are like the stories that these people tell, just like they did in Tsushima. They give you like armor and stuff if you go through them, and it gives you a lot of references to the past game, which is really fun to go through and actually fight through these duels and gain these weapons from these enemies. I highly recommend doing these as well, just because they are crucial to get far into the game, at least if you're playing on a harder difficulty like I was. The last thing I want to talk about is the armor and the weapon skins. Honestly, they all look really good. There's 13 different pieces of armor, which is kind of insane. You can go through all of these and mix match them as much as you want, which is really entertaining for people that love to do like different styling and stuff, which I really enjoy. Not only can you get these 13 different types of armor, you can also put these like special little skins on them to make it white, black, or red, depending on what ones you have collected throughout playing the game, which can be really entertaining. And depending on which tier that you actually like for the skin, you can actually tier the one as much as you want to whatever one you think suits your character the best, which I think is really cool. Aside from the armor, the masks and the helmets and stuff are amazing. There's a lot of variety to these. There's a lot of hats and a whole bunch of masks that you can actually collect throughout playing the game. The only thing that kind of sucks about having so many of them is there's not enough armor variety to actually fit with all these, so some of them just look kind of out of place or just kind of dumb, at least in my opinion. But they still are cool to just have all this variety for people that love to do like different styling and have a lot more enjoyment in actually trying to make your character look like a badass walking around. Aside from those, you have the weapon skins, and honestly, it's kind of disappointing. The swords got a lot of praise in this game. There is around 50 sword skins in this game, which is honestly insane. You can make it look through like really cool depending on if you got some of the cool skins like the Gilded Knight or the Storm sword from Jin, which is really cool having like all these like random swords thrown in, and it can make it really entertaining going through all these and finding which ones best suit your character. The dual katanas both share the same types of skins, so you kind of get to decide what the two look like together, which is awesome. The Yari and the Kushigami and the Odachi, though, on the other hand, don't really have that many. They have around 5 to 6 for each of them, which is kind of disappointing. So you're comparing 50 to 5 to 6, it doesn't really give you that much of a broad range of what you're actually going to do with the weapon, which kind of sucks. But aside from that, it all still feels really good, and I'm really enjoy how the product ended up turning out. But how is the game overall? Honestly, I think the story of Yotei is okay at best, while the rest of the stuff like the gameplay, the styling, and like the music and everything else just feels so much better than its prior game, Tsushima, which is honestly great, and I'm happy that it ended up turning out the way it did because I was expecting this game not to be as exciting as that one, but somehow it nailed everything perfectly aside from the story for me. But if you guys enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like and a sub. And if you have suggestions for any other content, make sure to leave them down in the comments down below. But I'll see y'all next time. See ya.